Hi guys, Dr. Simon Hill here, and today I want to talk about depression. So, um, as some of you may know already, because I was fairly public in terms of opening up about this on LinkedIn fairly recently, I've been struggling with depression for um, predominantly over the last 6 months, but I think if I'm honest with myself, it's a lot longer than that. Probably more like decades, more than just a couple of months. And so I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about it, be open about it. A, because it's quite therapeutic, but B, because I'm sure some of you may well be suffering similar scenarios, similar symptoms as I was, and still do occasionally. And just kind of share my thoughts, share my ideas, share some of the solutions and some of the things that alleviate the symptoms and alleviate some of the thoughts and ideas that go on rattle around in our heads. So, firstly, I've always been the kind of person, certainly up until probably the last 12 months, that's been fairly hard-headed about things like mental health. I've always kind of been, I've always been a bit of a man up kind of person. And whilst I still, to an extent, kind of agree that we need to try and take charge of our feelings and our emotions and the things that go on in our heads, I think there's a great power in that. But I also recognise, particularly over the last 6 to 12 months for me, is that actually it's a lot more. It takes a lot more than that. Just positive mental attitude to perk yourself up and get on with it. And certainly, this for me was coming out in different ways. So around November, December 2023, I just began just feeling low, just continuously. I'd wake up, I wouldn't want to get out of bed. I'd kind of have to get out of bed because I've got to take the kids to school, or I've got to, do different things. But I'd then take the kids to school. We'd walk to school, and we'd have a chat and and then I'd walk home from school and I'd be in tears, and I couldn't really say why, because there was nothing really in my life then or now that really is that big, is kind of dragging me down. I'm incredibly fortunate to have a steady job, to have a great family, to have a bigger extended family as well, all very close by. So I very much recognise that I wouldn't necessarily say I've got everything, but I've got a lot, and I've been very fortunate. I've made some good decisions and had some good strategies in the past. I'm fairly fit, and I think this is perhaps one of the things that made December, kind of November, December last year, particularly difficult for me, was because I've been struggling with a sports injury in my Achilles for a little while. I say a little while, probably a couple of years, if I'm honest with myself. And I've always been somebody that, since about the age of 17, I've worked out regularly because I've got a bit of a food addiction thing going on. And I overeat. I wouldn't say that was necessarily a big problem, but certainly when I was running and trying to get that, obviously changes your body chemistry and certainly the hormones and things in my head and in our heads. So I had this injury, and it was just getting me down. It was kind of wearing me away that I couldn't go out running. Because I love running. I think there's a huge amount of therapy in it, whether it's going out with an audiobook and just listening, podcasts, whatever, or just going out without any headphones at all. Now that's a sneaky little trick, one that I don't do anywhere near enough. But if you want to have a bit of meditation, you've never tried meditation before, just go out for a walk or for a run with no headphones on. Don't go and listen to music or anything like that. Just listen to the world around you. Now, hopefully you've got somewhere nice to go and walk, but even if that's just through the streets, try and choose maybe some quieter streets, but just do it like that. I think, there's a huge value to that. Anyway, so as I said, I was feeling incredibly low. Again, there were tears fairly regularly, and my wife was clearly noticing that there was something not quite right with me. We had many, again, very emotional conversations, and it kind of led me to saying, okay, well, I think it's probably more a suggestion from my wife that, perhaps I should see a doctor. And of course, like many of us, men and women, I kind of thought, nah, that's not for me. What are they going to tell me? There's nothing that a doctor can say to me that is going to help this situation. But I continued feeling like it was still, again, just every day was just a struggle. And so I gave in, and on the way to school, I got on the phone, got in the waiting queue for the doctors, and booked an appointment. Now, fortunately, that appointment was a telephone appointment, because I don't know, I very could have easily, if it was a face-to-face, I don't know, I may have struggled with that a little bit more. But I ended up having the telephone conversation with the doctor, and again, absolutely bawled my eyes out. And I'm not really a crier, but it was a full-blown release of emotions. Yeah, again, because I knew that it seemed crazy that, again, somebody that has all the things that I'm fortunate enough to have could feel like that. It just seems, absolutely, And I've seen some dark things in the past. I've spent time in hospital when my daughter was young, and seen infant babies pass away in front of me, and it's just again, dark stuff that you kind of think, well, that'll make you depressed. I've seen that stuff, but again, I've been fortunate not to be on that extremeness of scenario of situation. But again, I couldn't explain it. And I'm thankful for the doctor for kind of saying, okay, well, let's try you on some medication. And again, initially, my body clenched up, and I thought, well, do I want to be taking medication? Is that an admission of guilt, or an admission of, there is something wrong with me? But I went with it. And I was on an antidepressant called sertraline for then the next 6 months. In fact, 6 months plus, because you have to taper off the drug. And I have to say, it made a huge difference. Again, there's a strange thing that, certainly for me, I don't know about you, that kind of makes you, I don't want to take medication. I'll man up. I'll just get on with it. I'll suffer through it. But again, this drug had a huge impact on me. And it made me feel significantly better for the following 6 months. And now I'm here 6 months later. I'm off the drugs, the daily drugs, and I can feel things creeping back a little bit. That's not to say that I feel anywhere like what I felt like in November or December. But there are moments where I've always kind of described it to myself as going down the rabbit hole, where I could just feel something not quite right. And usually there'll be a trigger, whether it would be a bit of anxiety, a bit of stress, maybe something that, I know something that winds me up, and particularly triggers me is buying stuff. That's not to say, I don't know, but it's buying stuff that was not necessarily. So I feel like the kids, if my kids have they've had a new pen or something like that, it's like, but they've got 100 pens already, so why do they need another one? And it sounds so stupid, and I know that, again, it sounds silly, but little things like that would trigger me, and I'd go quiet, and I'd start worrying about stuff and getting more, and then I'd start looking for the negative things rather than kind of focusing on the positive stuff. So I think there's a lot to be said again for the focus that we give to things, whether it's positive or negative. So I guess, the key message that I want to share here is, if you are feeling any of those things that I've mentioned, anxiety, stress, etc., and you might be trying to deal with it already. Again, I think I've been dealing with it for decades, with things like exercise. I think exercise has a huge part to play in our mental well-being, because it's a tick. I've done that. Plus, it's also physically, you're making yourself fitter. Again, you're changing your body chemistry to make you again feel a different way, because you feel a win when you've done your exercise, a bit of endorphin. So think about how, again, you're dealing with those feelings. Hopefully, give exercise a go. If you are in a position where you are feeling a little bit stressed, wound up, frustrated, anxious, then and you're not doing exercise right now, try doing it regularly. And again, it doesn't have to be anything strenuous. It should be a little walk, but see how you go on that. And maybe sometimes listen to some music, but again, try and take those headphones out for a change, and just listen to nature. Do a little bit of meditation, because meditation doesn't have to be the whole cross legs, just hum to yourself. Meditation could be walking, it could be running, it could be all sorts of things, but it's trying to switch off the voice in your head, or at least quieten the voice in your head. One thing I do to meditate, or certainly I did do, I don't do it quite so much anymore, is I focus on what my fingers are feeling. So I'll get some kind of material, a piece of paper, or it's like a little stone or something. And I'll just focus on how that feels. Nothing particularly difficult. And then what I'll find is that my mind will start drifting off in a different direction, and I'll just kind of try and bring myself back to, okay, well, again, how does that feel against my finger? That's it. Simple. I say simple, but again, your mind will keep drifting back off, but just keep bringing yourself back to that. Particularly good if you're trying to go to sleep. I mean, I'm not suggesting you take a rock to sleep, but I'd sometimes do it with just the duvet and just kind of focus on how that feels to soothe the thoughts in my head. So exercise. I would strongly recommend getting into that if you're not already, but also ask for help other ways. So I know my local area has some different therapies that either the doctors can refer you to, or you can self-refer to. I know I think mine's called the talking therapies or something like that, and I did a course with them to come up with a number of ideas around anxiety and coming and getting over that kind of stuff. But see if there's something you can find in your local area that's publicly funded, and try and get onto that. It did take a couple of months for me to get onto the course that I did. So obviously, if you need more immediate attention and help, then obviously go speak to your GP, or speak to Samaritans, different charities that are available to support you in your mental health. But I'm here to kind of say, please, ask for help, because it made a huge difference to me 6 months ago, 6+ months ago. And as I said, I know there is something creeping back into my head in terms of just old habits that aren't now being dulled down perhaps by the medication. But I am looking to overcome those. I have got these little tips and tricks, again, exercise, bit of meditation, just to try and snap out of that spiral. Because I think a lot of it is habitual, in terms of, okay, if you've done this before, this happens, and then you go downhill. And sometimes you can go up as well. You can have those highs. But again, if you are struggling, if you can't quite overcome those feelings, then please go and get help. There's nothing about failure there. My doctors, again, there's the whole man thing of, what they're going to say to me, male pride and stuff. But give it a go. Please ask for help from somebody, because it is certainly worthwhile. I'll end it there. If you've got any questions, please do leave them in the comments, and I will try and answer them the best I can, as honestly as I can. As you know, I'm a fairly open book in terms of stuff I like to share on my videos. But again, ask for help. And again, if you like the video, of course, as always, give it a like, and please subscribe to the channel, because it will help the channel. But also, particularly for this video, I'd love, obviously, for more people to see my other videos, but this video is a really important one because it affects so many people, and yet so many people suffer in silence with it as well, rather than trying to tackle it head on. So thank you very much for listening. Ask any questions in the comments, and I will see you next time.